I don't even know how to describe this. Yesterday, I was at my university's main library cafe, waiting for a latte I just ordered. All of a sudden, some guy wearing sunglasses comes from behind me and asks me how's it going and whatnot. I thought it was strange because the way he said it made it seem like he thought he knew me. It took me 2 minutes to realize that I actually do not know this person. He then asked me if I could help him put up his bracelet on his wrist because he can't do it himself. The bracelet was pretty hard to put on, and you had to put this excess string through a hole to tie it or something like that. I felt really awkward and I couldn't leave because I wanted my latte, damn it, so I just tried to put it on. So he extends his arm towards me. The hole was rather small and I was uncomfortable with trying to actually put effort into putting the bracelet on, so I said I can't do it. He said, maybe I should find a smarter girl to put it on. I then realized that when he extended his arm, he was touching my boob. I don't know how it took me that long to realize, but I didn't know what to say, so I stepped back and just said, this is awkward. And he replied, it's actually not. Then he starts asking if I'm into football, and I said no, and he got slightly offended. He asked what I like to do, and I said I like to go on the internet. The first thing he said was, do you watch pornography? And I just tried to change the subject and mentioned that I was on a Backstreet Boys binge because I am, and he starts breaking out into song. During this time, he was also stroking my hair and the top of my head. Finally, I got my latte, and I had no choice but to walk across back over to him in order to get out of the library. So he asked if we could walk and talk, but thankfully I had math class in 10 minutes, and told him I had to go. He asked if I want to see him again, and I told him I have a boyfriend, which is true. He says, so I have a dog. Same thing. And I just didn't know what to do. So I started leaving, and before he lets me through, he says, he may be your boyfriend, but I'm your husband. And I just had no idea what happened to me. I know I should have just got the fuck out of there, but I felt so awkward that I was dumbstruck and didn't know what I was saying. But my heart was pounding for hours afterwards, and I couldn't concentrate in math. I have this eerie thought that he was following me everywhere. Really sweet lady who turns out to be not so sweet after all. This is my first post on the sub, and I really hope it'll be my last. Just to give you an idea, I'm a female student, and I work 2 part-time jobs, one in a library during the evenings, and one at a sort of cafe during the weekends. One weekend, this lady comes in. She's completely average in height and build, and has a really sweet baby face, not creepy at all, perfectly polite, except for the fact that when I go to take her order, she just sort of stares at me for a while. Not very inappropriately or anything. Probably wouldn't even have noticed it if it weren't waiting on her order. Eventually, she orders something and a coffee, and as I bring her order, she accidentally spills the coffee on me. She panics and tries to wipe me down with a napkin while apologizing profusely. Thing is, she's wiping me down in a way that makes me feel very uncomfortable. The tables are waist height as usual, so you can guess the area she's trying to wipe down. But she's so sincere, I feel guilty for feeling weirded out by her, especially her earnest efforts to help me, and assure her it's not necessary. She completely ignores me and goes on and on. At this point, all the other customers and even my coworkers are staring at us. And when I try to move away a bit, she holds me down by the waist, despite being not very much larger than my 5'2" petite frame, and leaves bruises I would later discover. We eventually clear everything up, and I go my merry way, unexpecting, and under the impression that she was too panicked to think straight. She becomes a sort of regular at the cafe on weekends, and we built up a sort of quasi-friendly relationship. Seems a bit overly friendly, but I've always been a bit of a loner, so I guess it's just me being awkward. A few days later, she turns up at the library. Cool. Ours is not the greatest library, and there's a lot of other bigger ones, but who cares really? If you love books, you're fine by me. She stays in the library till closing time every day, and soon she begins spending all her evenings at the cafe too. One day she casually asked where my house is. I'm about to answer till my coworker and friend Kay calls to me. When I get over to her, she basically tells me not to tell the lady anything too personal or my address or university or stuff anything like that. I'm a bit confused at this, but for some reason I'm also relieved. I guess in the back of my mind I really was creeped out a little by the lady, but I felt guilty because she was always so sincere and nice. Kay telling me that was nice because I honestly thought it was me and my socially awkward self making stuff up and blaming it on the lady. Anyways, I avoid her somewhat for the rest of the evening. It's really busy around that time, so it doesn't stand out too much. So next Monday, while I'm doing rounds of the library to make sure everyone has vacated the premises and putting the books back into their place from the reading tables, that's when I noticed that for the first time in the 2 months since she's been coming to this library, the lady has left without me having to ask her to. It's very relieving because I honestly don't want to talk to her right then. I walk back to the doors and who's there waiting behind the librarian's desk, sitting on my chair but her? What follows is a scene from a badly scripted soap opera, with her actually yelling at me for ignoring her as I stand trying to calm her down. I've been through this situation with a very dominating friend before, so while I'm very irritated, I'm not actually scared. I figured if I can handle this once, I can handle it twice. She yells at me for almost 20 minutes before launching herself at me and effectively trying to strangle me before running out of the door. When I get home, there are a few bloody nail marks on my neck. Thankfully, she didn't turn up again in the library or in the cafe while I was working there. I don't know what I would have done if she had. Heath. I apologize in advance for any spelling or formatting errors. I'm on my phone and just discovered this subreddit and felt I needed to share my experience. Anyways, this happened about 6 years ago while I was in college. It was my freshman year and I just ended a long-term relationship with my high school boyfriend. I wasn't looking to jump into anything serious, but thought this guy in my Psychology 101 class was very attractive. His name was Heath. Heath and I ended up talking quite a bit, and he invited me out for coffee after class one day. Of course I obliged. Everything went well. Heath was a sweet kid. Anyways, we had a test coming up the following week, and Heath asked if I wanted to study with him that weekend. I said okay, and we exchanged numbers. That weekend rolls around, and I completely forgot my plans with Heath. I ended up having a few guy friends and one girlfriend over on Saturday night and studied alone at Starbucks on Sunday. Monday morning, Heath was livid. I was called a slut for hanging out with a few guys instead of studying with him. Creepy, I thought. I never mentioned what I did over the weekend. After that, I avoided Heath at all costs. But Heath started showing up everywhere. He was outside my classes, the library I was studying at, the cafeteria. Everywhere I looked, there was Heath. It was getting a little ridiculous. Then, one day, it stopped. No more Heath. 3 years later, it started happening again. I was getting ready to graduate and Heath pops up again. He came up to me in the school's cafe and asked my name. "Is this your number still?" And he read it out. I stared blankly at him. He smiled and then just walked away. Since then, weird things have happened a couple times. Notes being left on my car, a single rose being left on my doorstep, etc. Nothing has occurred since I moved into a new apartment a year back, but I still look over my shoulder. I think I've met the next Chris Chan. For those of you who don't get the reference, Chris Chan was a pretty popular on the internet a while back. He was known for stalking women in his love quest for a boyfriend-free girl. If you want to know more, Google search him. I'm sorry this is so long. This is my first post here ever, but I had to tell this story. Anyways, there's this boy who goes to my college, Dave. Dave is a sophomore. We knew something was up from the time he started at the school last year. People referred to him as the gullible freshman because he'd believe anything you told him. People poked fun at him now and then and he didn't get it. It was a little sad. Easily influenced, he started copying what other people did, and he began to smoke, since that's what his friends in the campus game room did. That's when things started to go sour. He started picking fights with his friends, usually over religion or politics. He blamed them for forcing him to smoke. He started targeting girls in the game room and wouldn't take no for an answer. He was asked to leave and not come back when they were around by the people who usually hung out there. The game room is for relaxing, not for fights and creeping. With nowhere else to go, Dave started wandering the general vicinity of the campus center. He would usually take to pacing on the lane in front of the campus center, near the library, and in front of the downstairs entrance to the center, both high traffic areas. As he paced, he would light cigarette after cigarette, staying there for significant blocks of time. And every time girls passed, he would follow them, shouting after them and trying to get their attention. This is where my friends and I come in. I and my friend Danny are seniors. 4 of my friends, Sylvie, Alice, Tom, and Tracy, are juniors. My brother Patrick is a sophomore and is Sylvie's boyfriend. Tracy is the oldest and is married. It began with her. She didn't know anything about the game room incident and made the unfortunate mistake of smoking near Dave. She'd make awkward conversation with him every once in a while. It was the kind of obligate conversation you'd have with someone you were standing next to for any period of time. Polite, but not overtly friendly. Dave took this as being friendly, and given Tracy's gender, the expected happened. He asked her out. "Oh, sorry," Tracy said. "I'm married." Any sane person wouldn't take offense to that, right? Wrong. Dave immediately went, "You're not married. You're just lying to me so you don't have to go on a date with me." Tracy immediately held up her hand with her wedding ring on it and said, "This is my wedding ring. Still think I'm lying?" Dave backed off somewhat. He didn't leave her alone, though. Every time he found Tracy, he'd say in the same whiny voice each time, "Hi, Tracy, how's your husband?" He has attempted to follow her to her car to meet her husband, has followed her across the campus, has bragged to her about how many guns there are in his house, and has sat down with her during meals without asking. A few of us met for lunch. It was Tracy, Tom, Sylvie, Alice, and myself. We ate somewhere different that day. About 15 minutes into lunch, Dave miraculously showed up and helped himself to a seat. No one stopped him out of politeness. We went on with our daily business, eating and talking. I remember that Sylvie, Alice, and I were playing Pokemon. Tracy mentioned a news blurb on her phone. I left the table for about a minute to get a drink. When I came back, Dave was standing at the end of the table, shouting about politics. Apparently, Dave is fed by a steady stream of Fox News and didn't appreciate that everyone else at the table was liberal about healthcare, which had absolutely nothing to do with the news Tracy had read off her phone a few minutes prior. He seemed to think that he could change our minds, despite the fact that everyone was arguing with him. I was kinda shocked at what happened in the short span of time I was gone, and went, "What the fuck just happened?" Eventually, I lost my cool. Since I know people who are suffering because they can't afford healthcare, despite working very hard, I started arguing, hoping that he'd just leave, but he didn't. "Whatever," I said. "We're not gonna agree, so let's just stop talking and leave it there." I picked up my DS. "Aviel," I asked Alice if she wanted a Cyndaquil. I was breeding them. "Aviel, I think we got off the wrong foot. Dave, just leave me alone, okay? I need to calm down." Alice wanted a Cyndaquil. "Aviel, just listen to me!" Both of our heads must have snapped towards him in unison. His mouth was hanging open, and he looked pretty distressed. I was glaring. Alice, also glaring, went, "She clearly doesn't want to talk to you right now, but you don't care. You just keep trying to rope her into a conversation she doesn't even want to have. Why don't you just leave?" "But... just leave, go," Alice said, pointing towards the door. He walked about 2 steps before going. "Adhiel!" "Leave me alone, Dave," I snapped. "I need to calm, okay? So leave me alone." "I forgive you," he said. "I didn't apologize." I wish this was the end of the story. He continued to accost us, at least once every week. I wasn't around for it sometimes, but sometimes I was. It always started the same way. "Hi, Tracy, how's your husband?" Sylvie scared Mr. Conservative Christian off once in a tarot card reading, but it didn't scare him enough apparently. Tracy wasn't there that day. It was just Sylvie, Danny, and me. Then I heard it, the voice, with the same tone Tracy must have heard a million times. "Hi, Adhiel." I pretended my phone was vibrating. I picked it up. He left as I spoke to a non-existent Patrick on the other end of the phone. He seemed to walk away a little bit. I hung up. He backtracked to us. "Hi, can I sit here?" I guess," Sylvie said. Danny didn't encounter him until this point, so she didn't object, though she seemed a little weirded out. "Who are you talking to?" Dave asked me. "Was that your boyfriend?" Dave didn't know about my boyfriend, unless he creeped me on Facebook. He was taking a shot in the dark. "No, my brother," I said, realizing my mistake. I said, "Oh, but Sylvie, my boyfriend is coming into town this weekend." It was true. "Oh, so you do have a boyfriend," he said, clearly annoyed. "Yep." "I don't have a girlfriend." Maybe you'll find one someday." "People always tell me that. I'm tired of girls telling me that. It's so stupid." "Well, maybe you will," I said. "I didn't even get into a relationship until college." "I've never been in a relationship," Dave said. "I think it's really gay at this point." I saw the opportunity and went for it. I pretended to not pay attention. "Oh, sorry, was that you're gay now?" "No, I'm straight," he said, getting out of the chair. "I'm straight." "Oh, it's okay," Sylvie said, laughing. "We don't judge. Whatever you're into." "I like girls," Dave shouted, and then he left. I have never seen Danny more confused in her life. Fast forward to last week. We sat at a different cafe at a table that was out of the way. You'd have to be looking for us to find us. It's Tracy, Patrick, Sylvie, and me. Patrick was doing a drawing for art class. Tracy was studying. Sylvie was watching Patrick draw. I was reading. Dave met us with the usual manner and the usual tone of voice. He said hi to Tracy first, then hi to me. Patrick went, "Not now, Dave, I'm busy." "So am I," said Tracy. "Sylvie," he went. "Don't bug my girlfriend," Patrick said. He knew where this was going. "Oh, you're dating her?" Dave went. "Yeah," Sylvie said. "Patrick's my boyfriend." "Huh," Dave went, obviously annoyed. He sat near me and asked what I was doing. I had bust out the tarot cards the second I saw him, so I said, "Studying these cards." "What kind of cards?" "They're tarot cards." Dave proceeded to argue with me about tarot cards. He asked me if I'm psychic and immediately said I couldn't be because I didn't know everything about him, like his address. I told him that tarot cards don't work that way. I didn't know shit like his address, and I didn't care to know. It turned into him asking if I knew any of herbs or anything like that to get him high. I acted all offended and told him to leave. He didn't, saying that he was joking. I said it wasn't funny, that he was distracting people trying to work. Tracy, seeing what I was trying to do, told him we were too busy to deal with him today. He went to bug other people in the cafe, but came back 2 minutes later and stood by the table, about 2 feet away. Tracy saw it and went, "Why are you hovering?" "I'm not, I'm just..." "Leave, David," she said. He did, but he lingered in the same area for a while, trying to sit with other people and approaching every table with girls at it. Everyone at our table agreed that we needed to stop pussyfooting and making so many excuses. We had to tell him to stop following us and creeping on the girls. Today, Sylvie, Patrick, and I were sitting outside. Patrick saw him first. Sylvie was distracted, standing a few feet away from us, talking to her friend Gianna. She was the closest to Dave, so when she saw him, she power walked towards us. Oh, look at the time, I said. Gotta get to that final. I grabbed my stuff, ready to book it. Dave came over. Well, what's going on over here? Nothing. We're leaving. We have to get to a final. He followed me, ditching Sylvie and Patrick as I turned the corner. Oh, good luck, I nodded. He still followed. I walked faster. What kind of final? No more niceness. Piss off, Dave. What? I said piss off! Why? Because of this. Because you keep following us everywhere. Stop it. Why are you so obsessed? You know what, Athiel? You're just like the other girls. No, I'm like all the other people on this campus. I walked away, catching up with Patrick and Sylvie inside of the campus center. We went to the 3rd floor, where we saw pacing Dave in front of the campus center and the library. He was ranting to a guy who was smoking there. There were 2 girls studying near us, so I felt it was only right to warn them. They knew who he was. Oh, David? One of them said. Yeah, he cornered us once. They also told me about one time when they were at lunch. One girl got up to use the bathroom, and he helped himself to her seat without asking before attempting to hit on the other girls at the table. He was trying to figure out if they had boyfriends or not, apparently. About 20 minutes later, they came up to me again. They'd been looking out the window the whole time and said, "The eagle has flown." He followed 2 girls down the lane. Sorry this was so long, but I had to tell you guys the story about pacing Dave.